Deep Search is a new feature in Consensus that runs a literature review search across more than 200 million papers. It gives you a structured overview of the field, a sense of what's already been done, and shows you where the gaps are. Around 5 million papers come out every single year, and keeping on top of all that research in the field is sometimes challenging, especially if you're in a fast-moving field. It's quite normal to spend days, weeks, months just going through the institutional library or digging through Google Scholar, and yet still missing stuff. And of course, there's nothing worse than getting to the end of your proposal or your literature review and realizing that an existing paper has already done what you wanted to do, or that you've missed something really important. If you've watched some of my videos before, you'll know that I have already tried Consensus, but they've just had a major upgrade. So I'll give you a proper walkthrough of all their new features so you can see exactly what it does and whether it fits in with your research workflow. You're still going to have to do the manual stuff, but I do think that this really speeds things up and keeps you from missing key papers because of their unique way of searching, which I'll talk about later. Of course, it all starts with a question or a prompt. If you're not sure how to phrase it, the tool makes suggestions under the search box. But for this walkthrough, I'm using one on the sustainability of wind energy versus solar energy. So just type your prompt, switch to Deep Search, choose any filters that you want to add. I'm going to leave this one as open as possible, and then hit the blue arrow. So at this point, it's doing quite a lot in the background. You'll start to see the papers appearing straight away as it searches. Now, the search tool breaks down the question into subsections and targeted queries. So it first looks at foundational concepts underpinning the research area, pulls in the adjacent fields, and follows a citation graph to expand the search. So that means that it'll take the most relevant papers it finds first, look at who they cite and who cites them, and uses those to discover additional studies that also belong in the report. And it pulls from databases like Semantic Scholar and PubMed, first by gathering a large pool, and then it screens and filters them, and finally narrows them down into the top 50 in terms of relevance and response to the question. What you get back, the report, is laid out like a literature review. So you start with an abstract and an introduction, which frames the question as well as the main debates and tensions within the field. Some of the more relevant papers are also cited here. The methods section gives you more detail on how the search was conducted and what was included or excluded by Consensus. Then you get the results, which tend to be broken down into different sub-themes and headings. So here we've got sections like lifestyle impacts, economic sustainability, the reliability of these tools, resistance, and leading on from the importance of hybrid systems. So you can click into the citations throughout the report, and in many cases open the full text straight away and read the PDF. They've also added some really cool extras that I feel add a lot of value to the report, especially when you're in the early stages of exploring a topic. So for instance, it'll list out key papers in the field with some data like methodology and main findings so that you can see how different papers might be connected. They also provide a claims and evidence table, which, characteristic of Consensus, is very easy to understand, very visual, and evaluates some of the top claims made by the literature. There's also a research gaps matrix that highlights both methodological and findings-based gaps where the literature might be lacking. So here, for example, being the long-term impacts of large-scale deployment of wind, solar, and hybrid systems. And then linked to that is a detailed list of open research questions that address potential gaps in the research. Now, by the time you reach the end of the report, you should have a structured view of the topic, a short list of papers to prioritize when you're reading, and a good idea of the gaps and open research questions. Now, of course, your literature review search often throws up more questions than answers, so you've also got a chance to dig further into the topic. This report here has been discussing different forms of renewable energy, and it's pointed out the benefits of hybrid systems. So you can ask a more detailed follow-up question in the box at the bottom and run another search just on that angle. If we run this as a pro search, looking at 20 papers, you can really see the difference here in the depth of the output. And of course here you can see the consensus meter. The consensus is very well known for, which gives you a quick snapshot of where the literature is pointing, which is very useful. Let's give it one more try and see how it handles something that is perhaps slightly more controversial. So let's search for whether nuclear energy is a sustainable solution for climate change. And this time we'll filter only pages from the last 5 years because I want the most recent research. And then if we wait a few minutes, so that was about 1.5 minutes, which is pretty good timing for a deep search of just under 1,000 papers. And this time we also have the consensus meter, but as you can see, the results are a little bit more varied. So the consensus meter points out that typically 64% of the papers agree nuclear power is a sustainable solution, but not all of them do. And as always, the debate is very neatly color-coded. It's all about making those initial findings really accessible and clear so you can decide where to apply your own expertise. Some of the papers like this one are saying no, some possibly, and some yes, meaning that we have all sides of the debate worked into the consensus output so it's ready for your own exploration. This update has really improved the quality of the literature retrieval within consensus. In addition to keyword search, it helps you refine your prompt, run semantic searches, and even traces that citation network. The output was what actually surprised me most about this update. Obviously, we're not asking it to write it for us, but it does a great job of mapping the field, surfacing connections that might not have otherwise been spotted right away. The visuals and the gaps matrix are really neat inclusions to the report, very consensus, and when you combine these features with your own expertise, you've got a really solid way of finding and interpreting the right papers for your project. We've got a discount code that I'll include in the description, and I will also drop a link to the output of this consensus deep search so that you can take a look at the report yourself. Feel free to drop any questions that you might have in the comments. Thank you for watching and good luck with your own research. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more academia related content, then please subscribe to the PhD Place YouTube channel.